The camera pans across a lush manicured lawn. Sunlight glints off the sprawling windows of a beautiful colonial house. This is Crestwood Lane, a place where dreams are made of, or so it seems. Meet the Wrights. John Wright, a successful lawyer, flashes a charming smile. His wife, Eleanor, a vision of elegance, waves from their grand porch swing. Their teenage daughter, Lily, effortlessly popular and strikingly beautiful, scrolls through her phone, a smirk playing on her lips. They are the picture of suburban bliss, the perfect family. Every Saturday, the Wrights host their legendary barbecue. Neighbors gather, drawn to their warmth and easy laughter. John mans the grill, a true patriarch, dispensing jokes with every perfectly cooked burger. Eleanor, the consummate hostess, flits through the crowd, ensuring everyone has a drink and feels at ease. Laughter rings out, music floats through the air. It's idyllic, a scene straight out of a magazine, but under the surface a simmering tension lurks. John throws his head back and laughs a little too loudly. Eleanor's smile doesn't quite reach her eyes. Lily, off to the side with a group of friends, whispers and glances at her parents, a look of disdain on her face. The camera focuses on a half-empty bottle of wine on the counter, the contents swirling in the sunlight. The music continues, upbeat and cheerful, but a discordant note plays, a subtle shift in the atmosphere. Night falls, the party winds down, guests depart, offering thanks and compliments. Such a lovely family, they murmur. You can really feel the love. The Wrights stand on their porch, waving goodbye. John wraps an arm around Eleanor, kissing her temple. But as the last car pulls away, his grip tightens, almost painfully. Eleanor lowers her head, a shadow crossing her face. Inside the house, the facade crumbles. John throws his empty beer can on the counter, the sound echoing in the sudden silence. He turns to Eleanor, his face a mask of anger. "Must you look so miserable all the time?" he hisses. Eleanor flinches, her shoulders slumping. "It was a lovely party, John," she says, her voice barely a whisper. Lily, observing from the staircase, rolls her eyes and disappears down the hallway, her phone clutched in her hand. The camera lingers on a family portrait hanging in the hallway. It's a picture of perfection. John and Eleanor, younger, happier, Lily, a smiling child in between them. But the frame is slightly askew, a crack marring the glass. A single jarring note plays, hanging in the air. Something is not right in the Wright household. The perfect family, the perfect life, it's all a lie. Days pass in a blur of forced smiles and strained silences. John disappears into his work, his voice a hushed murmur. Eleanor moves through the house like a ghost, her once bright smile a distant memory. Lily, headphones on, avoids her parents' eyes. One evening, the Wrights gather for dinner. The silence is deafening, punctuated only by the clinking of silverware. John clears his throat, attempting to bridge the chasm. "So, Lily," he begins, "how was school today?" Lily mutters, "Fine." John sighs, defeated. Eleanor's hand grips the table, her knuckles white. After dinner, John retreats to his study. Eleanor picks up John's untouched plate and wanders into the living room. She stares out the window. The perfect houses, a stark contrast to the turmoil within her home. A sudden noise makes her jump. It's just the wind rustling the leaves outside. She closes her eyes, trying to block out a memory. The camera pans to a half-open drawer, revealing a stack of unopened bills and a single unfamiliar letter. The next day, a moving van arrives across the street. The Wrights watch from their living room window as a young couple, the Morgans, unload boxes and furniture. John comments on the new neighbors, his voice casual, but Eleanor senses a tension in his demeanor. Lily, for once, looks up from her phone, her eyes narrowed as she observes the activity across the street. Later that day, while John is at work and Lily is at school, Eleanor walks over to welcome the Morgans to Crestwood Lane. She rings the doorbell. A woman answers, her smile warm and genuine. "Hi, I'm Sarah," she says. "Welcome to the neighborhood." Eleanor introduces herself, but as they speak, she can't shake the feeling that someone is watching them. She glances over her shoulder. At the end of the street, a man in a dark car sits parked, his gaze fixed on the Wrights' house. The man starts the engine and drives away, but the unsettling feeling remains. Back home, Eleanor tries to shake off the unsettling encounter. She busies herself with housework, attempting to create a semblance of normalcy. But the peace is shattered when Lily returns home from school, her face pale, her eyes wide with fear. "Mum," she whispers, "I think someone's following me." Eleanor tries to calm Lily, but her own anxiety grows. She convinces herself it's just Lily's imagination, a teenage girl's overactive mind. But later that night, as she's tucking Lily into bed, she notices something strange. A small white object is tucked under Lily's pillow. Carefully, she pulls it out. It's a photograph of Lily walking home from school, her back to the camera, and behind her a shadowy figure, their face obscured by the darkness. Eleanor's blood runs cold. Someone is watching them, but who and why? John dismisses the photograph as a prank, a cruel joke. But Eleanor can't shake the feeling that something is terribly wrong. She starts to notice things she hadn't before. Strange cars parked down the street, hushed phone calls that end abruptly when she enters the room, John's increasingly erratic behavior, his temper flaring at the slightest provocation. The tension in the house thickens, a suffocating presence. The facade of the perfect family, already cracking, begins to crumble. Eleanor knows she can't ignore her instincts any longer. She has to uncover the truth. But the truth, she soon discovers, is a dangerous thing to find on Crestwood Lane. Eleanor, unable to shake the unease that settled deep in her gut, decides to confide in someone. She calls her oldest friend Maggie, a private investigator who lives in the city. Maggie, never one to turn down a good mystery, arrives at the Wrights' doorstep the next morning, a no-nonsense look on her face and a thermos of coffee in hand. As Eleanor recounts the strange occurrences of the past few weeks, Maggie listens intently. She sips her coffee, her sharp eyes missing nothing. Eleanor shows her the photo, her voice trembling slightly as she explains her fear. Maggie examines the picture, her expression unreadable. "There's more to this than meets the eye," Maggie says, her voice low and serious. "Something's not right here, Elle. There's always been something off about John and this picture. This feels connected to something from his past." Maggie's words send a chill down Eleanor's spine. John's past was always a mystery, dismissed with a wave and a smile. Now shadows of his past threaten their present. While John is at work and Lily at a friend's, Maggie and Eleanor sneak into John's study. The room is a testament to John's crafted image, a portrait of a younger John with his parents. Maggie swiftly goes through John's things. She finds a hidden compartment with a locked box. Eleanor watches as Maggie picks the lock. Inside are old photographs, letters, and a newspaper clipping. The headline reads, "College sweetheart vanishes, foul play suspected." The article sends a shock through Eleanor. The missing girl in the photo. She bears a striking resemblance to Sarah Morgan, their new neighbor. Suddenly it all clicks into place. The man in the car, John's strange behavior, the photograph under Lily's pillow. It's as if a dam has broken, years of suppressed suspicions flooding Eleanor's mind. John arrives home to find Eleanor waiting for him, her face pale, the newspaper clipping clutched in her hand. Maggie sits at the kitchen table, her expression grim. John freezes, his eyes darting between his wife and her friend. The colour drains from his face as he sees the headline. "Eleanor, I can explain," he stammers, but the words ring hollow. Eleanor confronts him, her voice trembling with a mix of fury and terror. "Who is she, John? What really happened all those years ago?" John, his face ashen, sinks into a chair, his carefully constructed world crumbling around him. Lily walks in on the tense scene, her eyes widening as she takes in the scene before her. Her mother, her face stained with tears, clutching the newspaper article. Her father, his shoulders slumped, his face buried in his hands, and Maggie, watching them both with a hawk-like intensity. "Mom, Dad, what's going on?" she asks, her voice barely a whisper. Her question hangs in the air unanswered as John and Eleanor remain locked in their own private hell, the weight of their secrets threatening to crush them all. Lily looks at the newspaper article in her mother's hand, the headline barely registering in her mind. But then she sees the photo, the grainy image of the missing girl, and her blood turns to ice. The resemblance to Sarah Morgan, their new neighbour, is uncanny. As the truth begins to dawn on Lily, a terrifying thought takes root in her mind. What if her father had something to do with that girl's disappearance? What if her entire life had been built on a lie? Overcome with emotion, Lily lets out a choked sob. "Dad, tell me it's not true," she pleads, her voice thick with tears. "Tell me you didn't do something to that girl." The room falls silent, the only sound Lily's quiet sobs. John finally looks up, his eyes meeting his daughter's, and for the first time Lily sees a flicker of fear in their depths. John opens his mouth to speak, but no words come out. He wants to deny everything, to reassure his daughter that he would never hurt anyone, but the lie sticks in his throat. The years of deceit have caught up with him, and he knows with a sinking feeling in his gut that there's no escaping the truth any longer. John's silence hangs heavy in the air, a suffocating weight pressing down on Lily and Eleanor. His inability to deny the accusation, to offer any kind of reassurance, speaks volumes. The colour drains from Eleanor's face, her worst fears confirmed. The man she loved, the father of her child, is a stranger, his true nature hidden behind a carefully constructed façade of normalcy. Lily, her world crumbling around her, backs away from her father as if he's a venomous snake. The fear in her eyes is mirrored in John's, but it's quickly replaced by a flash of anger, a desperate attempt to regain control of the situation. "Don't be ridiculous," John snaps, his voice sharp and brittle. "This is all a misunderstanding." But his words lack conviction, his denial ringing hollow in the charged silence that follows. Maggie, observing the scene with a detective's keen eye, steps forward, her voice calm and steady. "John," she says, her tone brooking no argument, "it's time to tell us the truth." She lays out the evidence before him, the newspaper clipping, the photo of Sarah Morgan, the shadowy figure in the picture of Lily. John, backed into a corner, his carefully constructed world crumbling around him, finally breaks. He collapses into a chair, his shoulders slumping, his face buried in his hands. The story spills out of him, a torrent of guilt, fear, and long-buried secrets. He tells them about his college sweetheart, about their passionate love affair, about a heated argument that turned violent. He insists it was an accident, that he never meant to hurt her. But his words are jumbled and confused, his voice choked with emotion. He claims he panicked, that he hid her body, that he's been living with the guilt ever since. Eleanor listens to John's confession, her heart breaking with each painful word. The man she thought she knew, the man she built her life with, is a stranger, his true nature masked by years of deceit. The life they built together, the picture-perfect family they presented to the world, is nothing but a sham, a carefully constructed lie designed to protect John's dark secret. Lily, overwhelmed by the weight of her father's confession, flees the room, her sobs echoing through the silent house. The image of her father, the man who always seemed so strong and in control, now reduced to a broken, guilt-ridden shell, is more than she can bear. John, his confession out in the open, seems to shrink in on himself, his bravado gone, his face ashen with guilt and fear. He tries to reach out to Eleanor, to explain, to apologize, but she recoils from his touch as if he's burned her. Maggie, ever the pragmatist, cuts through the emotional turmoil. "John," she says, her voice sharp and clear, "you need to tell me everything. Where is she buried? Who else knows about this?" John hesitates, his eyes darting between Maggie and Eleanor. He knows he has no choice but to confess, to face the consequences of his actions, but the thought of his carefully constructed world crashing down around him is terrifying. He tells Maggie about the night he disposed of his girlfriend's body, about the secluded spot in the woods where he buried her, about the fear that has haunted him ever since. He admits that he's been watching Sarah Morgan, convinced that she's the ghost of his past, come back to haunt him. As John confesses, the realization dawns on him that he's trapped, caught in a web of his own making. His past has finally caught up with him, and there's nowhere left to run, nowhere left to hide. The camera pans to the front door as a car pulls up outside. Headlights illuminate the driveway, casting long, ominous shadows across the manicured lawn. The doorbell rings, the sound sharp and piercing in the tense silence. John stares at the door, his blood running cold. He knows, with a certainty that chills him to the bone, that his past has finally caught up with him and there's nothing he can do to stop it. The camera focuses on the doorknob as it slowly begins to turn. The screen fades to black, the sound of the door creaking open echoing in the darkness, leaving the viewer on the edge of their seat, desperate to know who's on the other side. The harsh glare of the porch light reveals Detective Miller, a world-weary man with tired eyes. He steps inside, his gaze sweeping over the devastation in the living room. John sits slumped in his chair, defeated. Eleanor stands by the window, her eyes red-rimmed. Maggie watches from the couch, her expression unreadable. Detective Miller's voice is devoid of emotion. John nods, his throat constricted with guilt and fear. The weight of his past has caught up with him. He knows his life will never be the same. We have reason to believe you have information regarding the disappearance of Angela Davis, missing since 1989. The name hangs in the air, a chilling reminder of the life John destroyed. John glances at Eleanor, his eyes pleading for understanding, for forgiveness. But her face is a mask of betrayal and disgust. He doesn't deserve her forgiveness, not after the web of lies he spun, the life he stole from her, from their daughter. He rises slowly from his chair, his legs shaky, his body heavy with the weight of his impending confession. As Detective Miller leads John away, his gaze falls on Lily, who stands trembling in the hallway, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and accusation. He wants to say something, to apologize, to beg for her forgiveness, but the words die in his throat. He knows he doesn't deserve her forgiveness, not now, maybe not ever. The camera lingers on Eleanor as the front door closes behind John and Detective Miller. She stands alone in the wreckage of her life, her perfect family shattered, her future uncertain. The truth, so long buried, has come to light, but the cost of uncovering it has been devastating. The weeks that follow are a blur of police interviews, legal proceedings, and media frenzy. The story of John Wright, the seemingly perfect suburban dad leading a double life, becomes a national sensation. Reporters camp out on the right's once pristine lawn, their cameras capturing every tear, every stumble, every moment of raw grief that Eleanor and Lily endure. The evidence against John is overwhelming. His carefully constructed facade crumbles under the weight of forensic evidence, eyewitness accounts, and his own confession. The jury returns a guilty verdict after a short deliberation, their faces grim, their judgment swift and merciless. Eleanor, with Maggie by her side, attends every court hearing, every legal proceeding. She watches as the man she loved, the man she built a life with, is stripped of his freedom, his lies exposed, his true nature revealed to the world. She feels a strange mix of emotions, anger, betrayal, sadness, but most of all, a profound sense of relief. The truth is out. Justice, though long delayed, has finally been served. Life after John's arrest is a slow, painful process of healing and rebuilding. Eleanor, with Maggie's support, focuses on creating a new life for herself and Lily. She sells the house and moves to a small, cozy cottage by the sea. Lily struggles to come to terms with the truth. She attends therapy, finding solace in talking about her pain. Slowly, with Eleanor's love, she begins to heal. Life will never be the same for Eleanor and Lily, but they find solace in each other. They learn to navigate their new normal, finding joy in simple things. The camera fades to black as Eleanor and Lily walk hand in hand along the beach.
And that's the end of this incredible journey. Thank you for sticking with us through every twist, turn, and revelation. Your time and support mean the world to us. But the stories don't stop here. If you love thrilling, suspenseful, and captivating tales, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss the next gripping story. Got thoughts on this story? Drop a comment below, we'd love to hear what you think. Until next time, stay curious, stay intrigued, and we'll see you in the next one. Subscribe now and get ready for the next unforgettable story.